All right, so this is a pretty cool video on how logic points to God by Discovery Science. It's a cool channel on YouTube. This is the first video I've tapped into them, so let's check it out, respond to it, and see what they talk about.
All right, let's prove the existence of God with logic.
All right, this should be fun.
Logic is my middle name. Great. Before you can prove anything, you have to start with some foundational truths. Things we have to assume are true. Okay, the first foundational truth is that there is an objective reality.
What does that mean?
The things we experience in life are real. We're not just characters in a video game. Life is real. This world is real. If you don't...
So this is something that we see oftentimes atheists will throw, they try to say, prove that God exists. And, I've heard Cliff Connector really say it beautifully. Nothing can be proven. You can't prove that you're not just a brain floating in a jar, and even with that, you can reduce that down to, okay, how did the jar get there and how did your brain get there? So there is an objective truth to our reality that we live in. And if you deny that, then everything else falls apart. But, let's at least establish that before we move forward on how logic points to God.
You don't agree things are real, you can't know or prove anything.
Okay, that seems obvious. I accept the first assumption. Things are real.
The second foundational truth is that our senses generally provide accurate information about reality, about our world.
Your sight, your taste, your touch, all these things are what we use as evidence to show that we live in a world that is objectively true.
Huh. Care to explain?
We can trust clear signals from our senses. If we run into a tree, we say that proves both that the tree exists and that it is hard. If scientists find that all living creatures contain coded groups of atoms we call DNA, we say that proves the existence of DNA.
Sure, if you can't trust what you see, what you touch, what you hear and smell, then you can't know anything. We have to be careful sometimes, but I agree. We can use our senses to learn about the world.
Great. The third foundational truth is that if there is only one explanation for something, then that explanation must be true.
Tell me more.
Suppose you put some money in a safe, and you lock it, but when you come back the next day, the money is gone.
My money!
What would you say is the explanation? The cause of the money not being there any longer?
Oh, somebody took my money!
You wouldn't say that perhaps the money just teleported itself to a different universe?
Not a chance. In all of human experience, that's never happened.
There is no scientific reason to think that it even could. Maybe there's an invisible money-eating monster that just got hungry.
Get real.
Right. And so this is another thing that we see so often from atheists. They love to say, there is no proof or evidence that God exists. And we argue that design is proof. Design is evidence. If you look at the concept of, let's say, DNA, for example, if you walk on a beach and you see the sentence spelled out, I love going to the beach, and it's in the sand, you're not going to think that that just came there randomly or that it just took a lot of time and that appeared there. That sounds astronomically impossible. We can all agree that it makes no sense, and no matter how much time goes by, you won't see that happen in the finite world, at least. When you look at DNA, imagine that same thing happening, but billions of times over. The odds that DNA is just randomly formed over time and it's something that we've gotten to, it just makes zero sense because it is a code. It is something like a sentence that I love the beach. It takes intelligent design in order to exist. So this is why we argue that you can use logic to determine that, yes, there is a mind outside of our mind that has created everything because everything has design and purpose.
If the money's gone, somebody did it. There is no other explanation.
I wouldn't know how they did it, but I would know some person is responsible. Yeah, that's right. That's basically the third foundational truth. When, in all science and history, there is only one known explanation for something, we assume that explanation is true. When there is only one known reason why something happens, we assume that reason is correct.
I can't argue with any of those assumptions. Now what?
Now we put them together. Using our senses with careful observations, we have found fantastic technology in every living creature. Plants have sensors that detect detailed variations in both light and temperature. Some birds, fish, turtles, and butterflies have sensors that detect both the direction and intensity of the Earth's magnetic field, coupled with navigation systems that allow them to travel thousands of miles and return to the same field, stream, beach, or trees. This technology is complex almost beyond imagination. It is much more advanced than anything that humans have ever created.
And so often atheists love to say that, it's because it's a living thing and it adapts to its surroundings. The thing is, we all understand that a rock does not adapt to its surroundings. A rock doesn't have these same technologies and codes that allow it to adapt to its environment. And when you take that into account, you realize that evolutionists believe that life came from non-life. So it took something that was not living to make that step and become into something that is living, so then it could then go on to adapt and make all these changes that some argue is intentional and some argue it's not. It just doesn't make logical sense.
And we're only beginning to understand how DNA code works, with overlapping layers of information. Oh, that's pretty incredible. Using the first two foundational truths, we have now proved this technology is real. It exists in the real world. So far, so good. I can't argue with any of that. It seems pretty obvious. Great. Now, here's the clincher. What is the explanation? Where did life's technology come from? In all of human history and experience, only an intelligent being can create technology. Chance is pathetically inadequate, about as likely as self-teleporting money. No one has ever seen new technology created by accident, and the odds against it ever happening by chance are fantastical. The probability walls are too high.
True. You can't get new technology by chance.
Exactly. Scientists have found complex technology in every living creature. Life's technology is real. In all of human history and in all of science, the only explanation for technology is that it comes from a mind. Therefore, using the third foundational truth, the technology of life was designed. It was created by a mind. And that mind had to be enormously smart and powerful. That's a pretty good description.
Because again, we see computers. You never in a billion years would somebody logically think that a computer can just come into existence due to random chance and time of the gaps. It doesn't happen. It takes a mind. It takes intelligent design. And the more you look into science, the more intelligently designed you see the human body is, the cell is, the plant is. Everything is infinitely designed. It's intelligently designed. And therefore it comes from intelligence. It doesn't come from nothing.
Of God.
So that's a good way to wrap up this video. I hope you liked the video. Go ahead, share with a friend who that hasn't crossed that barrier yet. I hope it's helped you solidify your understanding of how religion and belief in God is rooted in logic. It's not something that ignores logic, that ignores science. If anything, science points to God and his creation. So, I hope this video helps. Please give me a like, share, subscribe, and yeah, God bless.